It's a day late, but I'm here to review UFC 292. On the bright side, I got to rewatch two of the fights that I, didn't really agree with the decision on, didn't really agree with the judging, and I do find myself more at peace with both of them. I still do think that Blackshear won against Bautista. I do still think that was the case. But I've come around on that one being a little bit more defensible. And I have come around on scoring the Marlon Vera fight against Pedro Munoz. That live, I scored 29-28. I have come around to thinking, no, you could have Vera winning that fight without a problem. I do still think the 30-27 scorecard is a little much. But I've come around on it. So, we are done with UFC 292. We've had two title fights. We've had a new champion crowned, and it's not super happy for me. The reason is pretty simple. I don't enjoy the Suga Show. I enjoy his fights. I do truthfully enjoy Sean O'Malley's fights, and he's a fun fighter to watch. The counter game that he caught Aljamain Sterling with and knocked him out, beautiful. He does that every fight, and it's always lovely. He showed good evasive footwork in this fight, but on the downside, the first round was pretty boring. Aljamain Sterling was pressuring him. He was evading, doing a good job of that. Aljo was doing very, very little. But if that's going to be his response to constant pressure, I'm not really sure that I'm going to be super excited for it. But really, the reason I dislike Sean O'Malley winning, number one, is Dana White gets, what he wants, which is Aljo not having the belt. By the way, there's some ridiculous conspiracy theories on that. Now, I think it's entirely fair to say the UFC wanted Aljamain Sterling to lose that fight. And they stacked the deck a little bit against him. They did make, a whole big thing about, no, you must take this date. We will not give you the time that you want after the Henry Cejudo fight to recharge, recover, and prepare. We will not do that. If we have to do that, we will do an interim title. And, the pressure was there to get Aljamain Sterling to fight here. So that, that did stack it against him. But, there are people, calling this a rigged stoppage. I'm like, no. Was this the absolute greatest stoppage in the world, and there's no way you could think it's early? No. Aljamain was still moving. But we have seen fighters stopped on the ground, standing. I mean, every standing TKO, for example, involves the fighter pretty much moving. We have seen them all end up in various forms of TKO while still moving. So, the stoppage, I have no problem with it. Mark Goddard, I think, did a solid job there. Aljamain Sterling didn't protest the stoppage. He got whacked really, 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 really hard and put down by a beautiful counter. But this does feel very much like the Conor McGregor Jose Aldo moment. And what I mean by that is that people are going to blow this up as to the greatest knockout of all time. Because you have Sean O'Malley fans who are Sean O'Malley only fans. And I don't mean they're fans of Sean O'Malley's OnlyFans website. I mean that they really, really love Sean O'Malley. And they want to make him into the GOAT. The greatest of all time fighter. And it's just nothing about this actually suggests that. He's got a win over Peter Yan. That's cool. That's fine. And now he's got a stoppage win over Aljo. It's a pretty poor resume when you're talking about that level of achievement. And it also was something that was more to do with what Aljo did. Aljo, against a guy who loves to do the straight counter, went in there, overthrew, set it up, and ate it. It was a mistake by Aljo in the same way that Jose Aldo, Conor McGregor was more about like Aldo doing something just dumb. Like even worse in that case, because like Aldo's performance against Conor McGregor was just like very clearly, what are you doing? Whereas like I understand what Sterling was trying to do here. He just like failed in application. So he knocked him out. He did a good job there. But yeah, we're going to get that Conor McGregor kind of style backdrop for Sean O'Malley. And the man is already talking about, like, I'm a UFC champion and I want to leverage this into fighting Gervonta Davis in boxing because UFC fighter pay sucks. And there's going to be someone who's going to be like, and there's going to, not even someone, there's going to be an army of people who talk about how fighter pay is fine. Well, we're going to have one of the UFC's most bankable champions asking for a boxing match. Good Lord. So that's going to be frustrating as all hell. But it was a fun fight. It was a good time. And I guess we move on to like him fighting Chito Vera because he wants Chito. He'll probably get Chito because the UFC number one is not in a number one. We'll probably see this as the best option. I mean, it's kind of like the Colby Covington Leon Edwards fight that we're doing. And like that is one that I don't even think will necessarily draw any particular numbers. Like I have said this repetitively. People who are like, Leon Bilal doesn't draw. I don't think Colby Leon draws either. I don't. I truthfully don't. I look at Colby's what we have as far as Colby Covington buy rate numbers. They're not huge. They truthfully aren't. They are the same numbers his opponents do against other people. Like we have the Usman numbers. I think we have the Masvidal numbers. And like they're the same that Usman did against other people. It doesn't bump it. O'Malley versus Chito actually would do numbers. So like that makes sense that the UFC is going to do that. And number two, the other two candidates for a title shot, Corey Sandhagen and Merab Dvalishvili, are kind of in the doghouse. Sandhagen because he had that fight with Rob Font that was not very good. And in the case of Dvalishvili, because he wouldn't fight Aljo, and because the UFC doesn't like Aljo, and that kind of, and let's be honest here, if you're trying to make the Suga Show happen, if you're trying to ride the O'Malley train, putting him in there against someone who is just going to relentlessly try to wrestle him is not actually a good way of doing it. So, yeah, we'll probably get the Chito versus O'Malley fight. For Sterling, he kind of poo-pooed the idea that he would go up to 145 by saying that like Volkanovski would waste him. I don't know what else you're going to do though if you're Sterling, like because you're not, the UFC is not interested in pushing you. You're not getting a title shot back at 135. It's not happening. You're also kind of being a bad friend because that puts him back in the way of Merab moving to the top. And my understanding the entire time has been that Merab, this is your time. Like that was a big part of why Sterling was talking about 145. And you're not going to fight Volkanovski if you go up. You're going to fight someone like 7 to 10 in the rankings, probably. So take some time, put on a little bit of weight, do it properly, move up to 145, do your thing. That's my next thing for Sterling. And we're going to talk about a fight a little out of order here. Marlon Vera, because, theoretically he's going to be fighting for the title, versus Pedro Munoz. I thought Munoz won live. I scored rounds 1 and 2 for him. Just seemed more active. And I know a lot of that activity was low kicks. But like the thing is, and people are like, you can't win the fight on low kicks, etc. Don't get me wrong. Low kicks are not the equivalent to like really powerful shots to the head. And they shouldn't be. But considering that we saw Ian Garry destroy Magny with low kicks, and we saw Brad Tavares kind of destroy Chris Weidman with low kicks, and we know Chris Weidman busted his leg up. The idea that like low kicks shouldn't be scored if they are crisp, sharp, obviously connecting hard. Like I always say this, like, if you watch me throw a low kick, yeah, sure, that shouldn't count because it's terrible. And there are fighters who throw low kicks just as pure. The vivisection guys call it leaf lower style striking. Holly Holmes low kicks are a good example of that. Like no committal, nothing. Pedro Munoz throws really hard low kicks here. I thought he won the first and second live. I have changed my tune since and have given Vera the first. So my scoring on second watch, Vera 1 and 3, Munoz number 2. Don't like the 30-27, but it was interesting because Vera kept up a decent pace. I will say the commentary team annoyed the living crap out of me during this fight because Joe Rogan. I know some people like Joe Rogan. I know some people like DC. But the idea that they do any studying of these fighters is laughable when you listen to them. Because it's like, oh, well, Vera's got to step up his pace here and be more like what the... Chito Vera loses like the volume battle in like every fight. Almost. This was high volume for him. This was him stepping on the gas and throwing a lot of shots. This was him doing that. And they spent the entire first round like talking about how he has to fight with more urgency. It's like this is as urgent as it gets. It was comically bad. But yeah, it was interesting to see Vera go out there and win a fight where he didn't significantly hurt Munoz at any point. That's kind of his trademark, is the big dynamic power shots at some point. Didn't really happen here. Had a really good third round, though. Really good third round. But it's kind of weird because he's coming off a loss to Sandhagen, and now he's going to be getting a title shot off of one win over Pedro Munoz, who is not shot. I think this fight proved that. Like, still durable, still capable, but like a guy who I think they don't even have ranked in the top 10. I could be mistaken. Hang on. UFC rankings. Go away, ad block. I'm not paying you money. UFC rankings. Men's bantamweight. Here we go. Yeah, they got Pedro Munoz down at 10th. So, like, ranked behind Dom Cruz, Yadong Song, Rob Font. And I know, obviously, Vera. The problem here is that Vera's beaten Cruz, beaten Font. You know, he has bigger wins. But, like, Vera, number 6 on the list, just beat number 10, going for a title shot. A little bit weird. You know, something that would not happen in a purely sporting environment. But yeah, he went out there and he did a good job. Like, he kept pace with Munoz. He landed some good shots. And he did the thing and got the win. So that's nice. They didn't let him go on the mic afterwards, though, which I think was a huge missed opportunity. Let that man trash talk Sean O'Malley and set this fight up. Like, do that. Co-main event, Weili Zhang defended against Amanda Lemos in the women's strawweight division. And my God, did Zhang beat the tar out of that woman. I did score the 4th round for Zhang. And out of curiosity here, I've got UFC stats up here. And if we go to the round-by-round analysis... Okay, no, even the round-by-round analysis doesn't really help me out here. I guess essentially what I'm doing is Zhang got caught on one leg by a punch by Lemos and fell over. And that was the most significant thing to happen in the 4th round. The 4th round unquestionably was her best round. According to UFC stats, Lemos landed the most strikes she did in the fight. In that round, she did, and she got a sub attempt. So, yeah, I gave her that round. Probably on a rewatch, I may not. I gave 10-8 in the 1st and the 5th round. The 5th is a must 10-8 round. Zhang beat the tar out of her. Multiple crucifix-like style setups. She just kind of like, and I kind of saw this coming, is that realistically Amanda Lemos overthrows a lot of her punches. It gives her power and it gives her like immense pop in those punches. That's what they're there for. But by the same token, it means that she's overthrowing, putting herself in bad positions, and making it really, really easy to get the positions to take her down. And what she normally is saved by there is the fact that she's usually just way stronger than her opponent. That wasn't the case here. Zhang could compete with her physically. Zhang has her own problems. Case in point, getting caught on one leg with a punch, which happens to her frequently. So, not a perfect technician, but a better technician than Lemos. Probably a better athlete. And certainly a better athlete than Lemos is used to dealing with. And yeah, she just mauled her. Lovely work. I wish she was a little bit more committed to her kicking game. Her kicks are very, very slappy. And they haven't always been. Her one of the fights with Thug Rose. Second one. The one where she didn't get knocked out. There you go. Where she was like punctuating her combinations with like a nice perfunctory, but like, nice low kick. That was when she was putting like a good hip turn into them, like giving them a little bit of snap, giving them a little bit of that good stuff. But that seems to have gone away. She's back to just kind of like slapping kicks. So that is the one critique I have for Zhang here. But she dominated. She did absolutely great things. Probably going to fight Zhang Yan in China. It'll be interesting to see the like Colby Covington style UFC fans, how you react to that, because this bastion of anti-wokeness and and good old American red-blooded values going to the place that you think put a bioweapon up against us and is going to make them a lot of money. That's an interesting deal. But that's where we're probably heading. Dana White refused to confirm that afterwards, but that is, I assume, where we're going. And Amanda Lemos shot up against Luana Pinheiro. It's just apparently very clear that I want to see Luana Pinheiro fight against somebody really, really good, because I'm matching her up against like every really solid good fighter ever. Pinheiro is entering my conversation for a next fight. Neil Magny versus Ian Machado Garry was a sad fight. I thought it should have been. I honestly thought at some point a towel should be thrown in, because by the third round, all right, Neil Magny is your fighter. He's not dynamic. He's not a huge hitter. He's clearly lost 2 rounds. I want to say I gave a 10-8 in the second round. So here he is down 20-17 on my card, 20-16, not even like out of the question. And he's going out there. He's not a sudden finisher. He's not a great takedown guy. His game is usually people being dumb and clinching with him, and Gary's not doing that. And he's resorting to butt scooting on the canvas to try to get him to come down into my guard, basically. Like Neil Magny is out there doing the meme guy, the get in my guard guy bit, and his corner doesn't throw the towel in. It's just sad. His leg was compromised. It was interesting because we were debating what the injury was, and Zane in my Discord, shout out to Zane, who does a little bit of kickboxing, said probably a nerve thing with a nerve shutting off and on. Because he would like every so often, like, make a nice lateral cut or throw a jumping knee or a Superman punch, which is not normally stuff you do off of a compromised leg. But like at other times, the leg would be dragging, and clearly it was hurting him, and clearly he didn't have confidence in it, and Ian Garry should have finished him. I guess that's the only thing. Some people are on Ian Garry still about like being unclassy by flipping him the bird. I don't know, man. If like Neil Magny said that he was going to beat Ian Garry worse than he beats his children, paraphrasing. I think after you've done that, like it's fair to have some like bad blood going on there, because Neil Magny's kids are not that old. that whole segment about child abuse and MMA fighters was kind of horrific. Just because you had some guys whose kids are like 15 months old coming out there and being like, oh, I beat my kids all the time. And it's like, wow. And I'm not even an anti-spanking guy. My parents spanked me. I think I turned out all right. I think the problems I have are like related to other things. Yeah, this was a beatdown. Ian Garry called out Wonder Boy afterwards. Make that happen. It probably won't. I get it because, well, I don't get it. But like I am aware that the UFC wants to punish Wonder Boy for not taking the Michelle Paya fight. They want everything. I think indicates that they're going to try and force him to fight a wrestler. He's said as much, and that does sound the petty way of Dana White's way of doing this. So we probably won't get it, but we should. It's not necessarily a step up in terms of competition, but it's a step up in terms of profile. People respect Wonder Boy as a former title contender and exciting fighter. That is the ideal fight, I think, for Ian Garry. It's a very winnable fight for Ian Garry as you continue to push him. And if he does lose, it'll be exciting, and Wonder Boy is still marketable and still has cachet. That's perfect to me. For Magny, I find the idea of him fighting Sean Brady very appealing because Magny has always been, simply put, a test of your fight IQ. And I'm worried that Sean Brady will do the standard mistakes against Neil Magny, and I want to see if he will, because I have questions about his fight IQ. Let that happen. But yeah, Garry beat him up badly here, and I can't really say I enjoyed it from like the second round onwards, but hey, it is what it is. Mario Bautista, Devon Blackshear. I still have Blackshear winning the first two rounds. I'm sorry. It wasn't until the third round that Bautista seemed to be just like comfortable / Blackshear started to fall apart. Well, not necessarily fall apart, but fade. You know, dude was fighting twice in 7 days, 2 weight cuts in a very, very short period of time. Yeah, he faded. It makes sense. But for the first bit, I mean, Blackshear was able to force him to wrestle, force him to grapple with him. It was not one-sided traffic in any way, but Blackshear was getting the better of it. He was getting the top positions. He was landing ground and pound. And even when they were standing, he was more comfortable throwing more volume, and Bautista wasn't landing particularly better volume. He wasn't particularly hurting him. I kind of still like Bautista winning because everything Blackshear was achieving just kind of came off as like what I was worried about, because I said in the prediction video that like Blackshear would probably show up and do way better than you'd expect him to in this fight because of the short notice, because he has that sort of one-size-fit-all short notice approach of aggressive striking into takedowns, into grappling, into scrambles, and into submissions. And it's kind of like there's not a lot of fine-tuning there. Like, there is obviously some fine-tuning. He talked about reviewing tape to catch Jose Johnson in a twister. So, like, he obviously does that. But, I mean, like, the base brass tacks of his game are not particularly different person to person. And as a result, I thought that, you know, he's the type of guy that really is going to show up in a short notice fight. And he did. And Bautista still got the win because judging was bad, I guess. And I say this as someone who picked Bautista to win. I want to make that clear. The other interesting thing about this fight is the social media reaction. There are a bunch of people who found this fight very boring. They called it the worst fight of the card and stuff. And to those people, I just have to say it. I don't understand why you watch this sport. I don't get it. I've kind of said this. If you are so anti-wrestling that you can't enjoy good scrambling grapples, that you can't do that. It's just not the sport for you. It's like having no appreciation for, like, you know, quality defense in gridiron football. Like, it's part of the sport. It's part of the sport. And like the thing is like, go support the things that will do what you want. Like, I'm not making this like a moral thing or whatever, but like, if what you want is essentially 4-ounce glove boxing / kickboxing, there are promotions that do that. Go watch them. Go forth. Enjoy. It will lead to a better world for us. There you go. I don't get it. I don't get it. For Bautista, I got the winner, Montel Jordan, Chris Gutierrez. And for Blackshear, I've got Sergey Morozov. I think would just be a fun fight. There you go. I didn't know I needed that, but I do need that in my life. Chris Weidman, Brad Tavares. This was sad because on one hand, Tavares won easily. On the other hand, Tavares didn't fight particularly well. Like, there's nothing about this this performance by Brad Tavares that was masterful or awesome. He was just simply busier, and Weidman could not keep up, and he beat up his legs. So it's a fight that, if you missed it, do not go back and watch it. You missed nothing. Weidman got his lead leg compromised, and you know, and that was it. Like, again, why low kick should score? Somehow Tavares still got himself like pressured into the corner a couple times, so like it was really not spectacular. And that pretty much does it for that fight. For Tavares, I have a next fight of Joe Pyfer. They're trying to build Joe Pyfer into something. You might as well try to capitalize off of Brad Tavares' cachet from beating a former champion. You could put that together and you can let them go. And for Weidman, I would hope retirement. He seems not to be interested in retiring. He may have tore his MCL. Dana White more or less confirmed that, but like at the same time, I don't trust Dana White. And Dana White was like really interested in getting him to retire because, well, frankly, they want him to retire versus letting him go from his contract, because if PFL or Bellator or whatever scoops him up and gives him fights, they might get a little bit of a drip from it, which, well, I mean, I don't know. I agree with Dana, but like at the same time, it's like, Dana, you have the ability to not promote his fight if you want. That is your option, and just exercise it. Dennis Tialunin got destroyed by Gregory Rodriguez. Some questions about the legality of the elbows he hit him with there. I did think one was illegal, but realistically speaking, we've seen worse. We've seen people get away with low blows and then finish people. We've seen people get away with eye pokes and then finish people. So I don't really have a problem with this. I also am not really a huge fan of a lot of the back of the head rulings, but hey, Rodriguez did a good job. He went out there, he smashed. I would love to see him fight Paul Craig. Tialunin probably will get cut because he's, I want to say 1-3 in the UFC. And usually it's a 4-fight contract. Yeah, I'm right. He beat Jamie Pickett. He's lost to Kizriev, Jung Young Park, and Gregory Rodriguez. Yeah, I don't really know why you would keep him around. I guess he's an action fighter and a violent action fighter. So if you do want to keep him around, maybe you could have him fight Claudio Ribeiro, because that would be fun. Kurt Hall, Austin Hubbard, the second of our two tough finales. First round, I think, went to Hubbard. He was a little bit more active. He also had some takedowns, which was weird. I don't think of Hubbard as a takedown guy. I just don't. But Hollabaugh was able to stand up from the takedown, and then in the second round, Hubbard failed on a bad takedown. Hallbaugh stepped on the front gas and got him down. Worked for a rear naked choke. Changed to an arm bar. There was like a little flip by Hubbard. Triangle choke adaptation from that. Boom. Got the job done. This was a good fight. It was a fun fight. It was expected to be a fun fight. Hallbaugh's a fun fighter. Hubbard's a fun fighter. I don't really know why either of them were let go by the UFC the first time, because they're not going to win a title. They're not going to be ranked. But they're, opening the night, first 3 fights, action fighters, and it's cool. So I do hope Hubbard gets signed. Because there's more tire on the tread. Hallbaugh gets Chris Duncan. I think that would just be fun. And Hubbard versus like Trey Ogden, which could be actually really boring. But I'm hoping it's not. Cody Gibson, Brad Katona. A lot of tough finales get like a little bit of the Bonner Griffin treatment. The comparison. This one kind of earned it because this was good. These two dudes shortened each other's lifespan out there and probably screwed up both their orbitals. Gibson was pressuring really, really well at the beginning, kept up a high pace. He started to fade as the fight went on. Brad Katona was getting, better and better reads. He's a better striker. He's the better boxer. He's actually a really good boxer. And he was figuring out how to land counters and really just get the better of it. I think Gibson still landed more in the second round, but it was by that time that I thought Katona was taking over. He won the second and the third round, in my opinion. And again, the commentary was a little bit problematic here because they kept like trying to play it like this was the original Ultimate Fighter finale. Like, oh, it'll be a shame if Cody Gibson doesn't get a contract off this. What tough finalist in recent memory, or to be honest, at any point, hasn't gotten signed off of Tough? Like, to go to the most applicable one, if you look at Tough the Comeback, Tough 4, Chris Lytle did not win Tough 4. He got a contract. Dean Thomas did not win Tough 4. He got a contract. Charles McCarthy did not win Tough 4. He got a contract. George Rivera didn't win. Patrick Cote didn't win, etc. They got contracts. There were a few exceptions on that season, and similar with the Second Chance season. But I mean, I hope Gibson got a good contract. I hope Gibson got like the same contract as Katona, basically. I hope he got the winner's contract. But he's going to get signed? They don't sign him. That's incredibly stupid. This was a really, really, really good fight. If you've not seen this fight, go watch this fight. This was dope. This is, this was great. This was the highlight of the season. There have been some other good fights. Jason Knight, Kurt Hallbaugh, very good. There were a couple others. The fights this season were pretty reasonable. But this was a hell of a way to bring it to an end. Katona gets the win. Guy who, in my opinion, along with Hunter Azure and Timur Valiev, should never have been cut. Very good fighters. And, for Katona, I've got against Brady Heaston for his next fight. Heaston is super aggressive, super open to getting hit. I would love to see Katona actually finish somebody for a change. And Heaston kind of throws himself into that kind of thing. And then for Cody Gibson, I've got Brian Kelleher because my God, would that be fun. Gerald Meerschaert did in fact get steamrolled by Andre Petroski. It should be said that I did say this would potentially happen. I thought Petroski won the first 2 rounds where he was just too strong, too powerful, and got the job done. By the 3rd round, he had fallen apart. GM3 took it, but yeah, he's just too physically strong for Petroski. I did pick GM3. I kind of predicted the fall of Petroski in the 2nd round and not the 3rd round was my problem. It was a fun fight with the best you're going to get when 2 BJJ guys strike with each other. And the grappling was also fun. I still think Meerschaert has something to offer, which is nice. And for Petrosky, I don't know if this affects it in any way. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, a guy you pick against wins the fight, and you're like, I don't know if that shifted my perception. Like, I guess it did, in the sense that I think he has 10 minutes of effective cardio instead of 7. But, like, that's about it. For next opponents, I've got Petrosky versus Andre Muniz, because he's obsessed with being the best grappler. And GM3 versus Iron Turtle. Jung Young Park would be so much fun. I would like to give the Turtle something more, but still. Anyways, Natalia Silva pantsed Andrea KGB Lee. Pretty much. Really, really, really easily. To a decision, admittedly. I think really what to talk about here was Lee's corner being useless. Because this is not surprising, because her corner is Tony Kelly. And they're dating. And that is the only reason I think he's in her corner. So, again, I've said this. I've said this a number of times, that I don't think it's actually healthy to date your coach. And it happens a lot in women's MMA. And it also, I think, just is not a good idea to have Tony Kelly as your corner. Anyways, Lee had nothing for her. She was slow on the feet, and she didn't make this messy. Don't get me wrong. I picked Silva because I didn't think there was a path to victory for Lee, but like, Lee's way of winning is to kind of like be a clinch bully, to be a mugger in the clinch. And there was none of that here. And it took till between second and third round for her corner to be like, all right, we gotta get up. We gotta get your ass up in her face, which is a terrible line. And it's like, but how? Like, what? Why was that not the game plan going in? Natalia Silva messed her up and pointed out that Dana White missed her fight last time. So that was fun. For a next, her English is not great. And it particularly showed up because Karine Silva, who we're going to talk about, has surprisingly good English. But for Natalia Silva, I would love to see her fight Jennifer Maia, because we haven't seen her fight someone who has a nuanced kind of like boxing striking game. I would love to see it. And then for Lee, I've got her against Marina Moroz, who we're going to talk about losing right at the end of the first round of her fight with Karine Silva. I picked Marina Moroz to win the fight because she's won it before, and she's a safe grappler, bare bones striker in a lot of ways, but like it's fine. It's a neutralizing style that should work against Karine Silva, who's not an effective manner of fighter, but like Karine Silva continues to surprise me. She hurt Moroz pretty early with a left hand, which got her sucked in the clinch, admittedly. So it would have been nice to stand back and just pummel away. Silva gets a takedown, moves to north-south position, looking for a choke, ends up jumping a guillotine. Moroz gets on top off of that. I'm like, jump the guillotine, that's bad. And she gets a cap with how much? What was the official stoppage time? Yeah, officially 1 second on the clock, and then does a good job of talking on the mic afterwards in English. Karine Silva, I still don't know what to make of it. She has all the physical tools to be a really, really good flyweight. She does. She's got pretty reasonable size. She's athletic. She's a scrambler. She's strong. She's bubbly, and therefore like promotable. I do think she's still dumb as a fighter. I think there's a lot of like risks and lack of structure to her game. But she keeps getting the job done. So what do I know? For next opponents, I have got Silva versus Amanda Lemos and Moroz versus Lee, like I said. Because they're two girls who are a little slow-footed, but like have a lot of heart, have actually really solid technique, and I would love to see them go out there and see who's better. And see them get a break from fighting like super athletic people. Although I guess Morose did fight Jennifer Maia before this, and that kind of is the same vibe. But KGB Lee has been facing off with like absolute brutes, absolute physical specimens, freaks for a while. Let's take a step back and go with. Sorry if I'm slobbering a little bit. I had some dental work done. I said that. That's why we're late here. And my tooth at the back is like all messed up, and my jaw is still a little messed up. But hopefully this was good. We'll wrap it up here, basically. Thank you. Check out the links down below to check out the Discord for the Fight Simulator and check out my social medias and so on. I will talk to you next time.